And I'll now hand you over to Si.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Can you just confirm that you can hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. And we can still see the PowerPoint on the screen. Excellent. Right, just to introduce myself, good evening all. My name is Chief Petty Officer Simon Lith. I've served in the Royal Navy now for 24 years. I was a warfare specialist for my regular career, and now I work as a careers advisor at the Portsmouth AFCO. And my goal this evening is to introduce you to everything Royal Navy and what we've got on offer to you. So, what does the Royal Navy do? It prevents conflict. We provide security at sea. We build international partnerships. We protect our economy. We provide humanitarian aid, and we protect our nation. So what I'd add to that is probably 10% of our job is actually war fighting. The rest of the job is everything else that comes under those headings there. And did you know, so £524 billion, that's 95% of Britain's economic activity depends on the oceans, with 17.3 billion tonnes of goods imported every year. So now a video, why do we have a Royal Navy?
On an average day around the world, the Royal Navy has up to 8,000 sailors and marines and as many as 40 ships, submarines and aircraft either deployed or preparing to deploy. Whether it's in the Arabian Gulf, North Sea, Afghanistan or the icy waters of the South Atlantic, your Royal Navy is out there doing what is asked of it, and at times much, much more, active and fully engaged around the world. As a nation, we are increasingly reliant on the stable supply of oil, gas and raw materials into our ports. By guarding the flow of these energy resources and ensuring trade routes remain open and safe to use, the Navy protects UK supply lines and safeguards its prosperity. Every day of the year, the Navy provides security by maintaining a visible presence in home waters and in regions overseas where there are strong UK interests. This allows the Royal Navy to build relationships with regional partners and respond rapidly to conflict, aggression, and unforeseen natural disasters, helping restore stability, bringing humanitarian assistance and saving lives. Promoting partnerships with other nations is key to helping them to make the seas safer for everyone. As well as helping to share the burden of providing security, it also allows us to increase levels of understanding and cooperation between nations. By being globally deployed, the Royal Navy prevents conflict. Its reassuring presence can often be enough to deter threats, help keep the peace, and stabilize potential hotspots. And being globally deployed also allows the Navy to respond swiftly to unforeseen events as and when they emerge. This is why the Navy is always ready to fight and win in combat, at sea, on land, or in the air. All of the Royal Navy's tasks are possible because the 30,000 sailors and marines of the Royal Navy are a highly skilled and efficient force. They are the lifeblood of the service, able to adapt to whatever the mission demands and are the key to delivering success anywhere in the world. The Royal Navy is your Navy, working 365 days a year around the globe with one aim: protecting our nation's interests.
Okay then, so how's the Royal Navy structured? So we've got naval services within the Royal Navy, we've got branches and we've got roles. First of all, we're going to look at the naval services. So our naval services, to begin with, we've got the surface fleet, we've then got the submarine service, we've got the fleet air arm, which deal with everything to do with air in the Royal Navy. We've also got the Royal Marines, we've got the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, and we've got the Maritime Reserves. So then, surface fleet, aircraft carriers, mine hunters, frigates, destroyers, and assault ships are the backbone of the Royal Navy. Most of these ships are either based in Portsmouth or down in Devonport, the two aircraft carriers obviously being in Portsmouth. There are at least 6 Type 45. I've served on 145, and I've served on HMS Illustrious for a number of years in the past. The submarine service then, our fleet of submarines work on top secret operations, including Trident, which is our nation's nuclear deterrent. Most of our submarines are based up in Faslane, up in Scotland. The fleet air arm then, the Royal Navy's aviation arm is made up of helicopters and fast jets, which operate from ships and shore bases. Highly technical equipment, multi-million-pound equipment. Mostly operate out of RNAS Culdrose down in Cornwall, and there's RNS Yeovilton in Dorset. So now a video on the Royal Marines. Okay, so the Royal Marines are one of the world's most elite amphibious forces, specialising in frontline combat operations across all terrains. Those of you out there that want a future as a Royal Marine, fitness is huge. You need to be able to run reasonably fast. You need to be able to do a good amount of press-ups, sit-ups, burpees and pull-ups. And you also need to be a competent swimmer. You'd also need to enjoy hot climates and very cold climates, because you'll be put through your paces if you go on to training. Okay, then the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, the civilian manned fleet, provides the Royal Navy with support where and when it's needed. So when we deploy everywhere around the world, we generally get a Royal Fleet Auxiliary ship come with us, and they will supply us with food, with stores, and most importantly, with fuel. It's not always possible to go alongside a port to refuel a warship, especially in operations, so we can refuel out at sea by using these Royal Fleet Auxiliary ships. And then we've got the Maritime Reserves. Our reservists use their spare time to learn all the skills needed to support our full-time personnel. Our reserves are made up of a wealth of knowledge from all over the civilian sort of industries. Some very high-ranking people in civilian street like to come and do reserve work as well to give back what they've learned, and you get some really good friendships, and you get some really good people that join the reserves, and they do a lot to assist the regular service. So then that's our services. So now our branches. Like departments in a business, branches determine the kind of work you will do. So we've got a number of branches, starting with the engineering branch. Our team of engineers are specially trained to work with powerful mechanical systems and sophisticated technology, from warship engines to submarine sonar. The engineering branch is then broken down into three other areas, if you like. So we've got air engineering, working on the aircraft on board ships or on shore bases. We've got weapon engineering, which is dealing with our multi-million-pound weapon systems. And we've also got marine engineering, which deals predominantly with the engines on board warships and submarines. Okay, so you've got aviation. So we need a dedicated team of specialists to handle, maintain and fly our aircraft, from F-35 Lightning jets to Wildcat helicopters. For those aspiring pilots amongst you, you will have to undergo a flying aptitude test at RAF Cranwell if you were to apply as a pilot, and that day will dictate if you've got what it takes to be a pilot. It's not always about your academic ability, but your reaction speed to fly these multi-million-pound fast jets. Only certain people are able to do so. Logistics and the logistics team make sure our personnel have everything they need to do their job, from food to fuel, hospitality to HR. So you could be working in stores, you could be working as a chef, you could be working as a steward, or you could be working dealing with people's and personnel's pay, etc. So very important roles, whichever one of those, if that is your choice of role. We've then got medical branches, lots of different jobs available within the medical branch. Our people are the biggest asset. It's our medical team who keep them fit and well, providing care in hospitals, at sea and in the field. Now you could join as a rating, as a medical assistant, let's say, and work your way up, or you could join as a doctor, already trained as a doctor and able to act as that sort of spearhead at the top of the medical team to ensure all our personnel are looked after at the highest level, and they always are. Okay, the warfare branch, this is what the branch I was involved with. Each operation is carefully planned and executed thanks to warfare, thanks to a team of specialists who use the latest comms kit, radar and weaponry. The warfare branch is broken down into 4 other streams, which is underwater warfare, dealing predominantly with submarines. We've got above water weapons, which speaks for itself, is all the upper deck weapon systems. We've got electronic warfare, which deals with picking up radars of enemy aircraft, ships, etc. And there's also warfare tactical, which is the key personnel within the ops room that keep that warfight going, and that picture building, which is the important part to warfare, making sure we've got a big picture of what's happening in and around us. And we've also got the Royal Marine Band Service. I've worked with these a number of times, and trust me, they are the best in the world. And they're the most respected, which plays everything from intimate ceremonies to televised concerts, such as the Remembrance Service live on TV, the Albert Hall. They are there on a regular basis. So, unbelievable band. So we've talked about services, we've talked about branches, and now that comes down into our roles as well. So did you know there's over 100+ roles within the Royal Navy? Use our role finder to see which one would suit you. So if you go to our website, www.royalnavy.uk/careers/role finder, you can put in there what your interests are, and the website will try and match you to a specific role, or give you sort of 3 or 4 roles that might be of interest to you, depending on your interests. Very good tool to look at what will be suited for you. So there's just a number of elements of the different jobs you can have in the Royal Navy, from clearance diver down at the bottom. On the right, the Royal Marine, and you've got aviation team, you've got a chef, and you've got a refueling going on in the middle there, and also the PTI taking everyone through their paces, keeping us fit, and a musician as well. So that's our services, our branches and our roles. And now that's broken down even more into ranks and rates. So first of all, we're going to look at the officer rank. So starting at Dartmouth, you'll start as a midshipman and move your way towards the rank of sub-lieutenant. Moving on to lieutenant, and then to the higher ranks, lieutenant commander, commander, and one day you might end up as captain and captain of your own warship. So if you're to join as a rating, then you can join. You'll start as an able rate. Then you work your way through. Normally that's broken down into 2 and 1. So you start as an AB2, you'll then move forward to AB1, progressing then with promotion to the first rank of management leading hand, which is the biggest pay jump as well in the Royal Navy. That then moves on to petty officer. You then become a senior rate, and then you move to chief petty officer. The next rank after that, warrant officer 1. And if you wish to do so at that stage, you could then look at promotion to officer and be commissioned. So in the Royal Marines then, as a Royal Marine Commando officer, we'd start as second lieutenant, moving on to lieutenant, then on to captain, then major, then lieutenant colonel, and then colonel. And again in the commando, starting off as a Royal Marine Commando, moving to lance corporal, on to corporal, then sergeant, then colour sergeant, then warrant officer 2 and warrant officer 1. So all very similar, but slightly different, obviously, between the Navy and the Royal Marines. So benefits of the Royal Navy then. What makes it great? Well, for one thing, and I can put my thumbs up to this one, mates for life. Meet new people from different backgrounds, discover a unique team spirit, and live and work together as a community. Bond with crewmates who become your second family. And that's very true. You do start as friends, but it's more than just friendship. It's more than just work colleagues. You live and work together on a daily basis, 24/7, especially on deployment. And you do become a big family, and you do feel part of that big family. and you feel like you've got lots of people in your life that look after you, that want you to do well and make sure you're safe. You'll travel the world. You get paid to visit far-flung places. Enjoy gap year style adventures on your days off. You'll work with local teams anywhere from Bahrain to the Bahamas, and you can compete in sporting events across the globe. So, for example, if I give you some of my experiences, I was lucky enough to go to South Georgia in Antarctica and had pictures with King Emperor penguins, and I stood next to Ernest Shackleton's grave, and I felt very sort of privileged to be able to do that. I've been to Key West in Florida Keys, unbelievable experience. I've been to Singapore, been to the Philippines. I've been all over the world, if you like, apart from Australia. That's one place I need to get to. But pretty much everywhere around the world I have been. And you will go as well if you do join the Navy. World-class training, and it is second to none. You gain internationally recognized qualifications. You'll learn new transferable skills. You get hands-on as soon as you start and use the latest equipment. You'll get learning credits to spend on specialist courses as well. There's lots of facilities in the Royal Navy to help improve you as a person and improve your qualifications, and all the funding's there and the support is there to help you do that. The operational sea training that once you join your first ship, you'll experience, it's second to none. It's unbelievable, and you will get to the stage of perfection with your job, because that's how we work in the Royal Navy. Right, every day is different, very true. Enjoy extraordinary experiences you'll never forget. Take part in everything from anti-piracy operations to humanitarian aid. Meet new people and try new things. Back in 2002, I'd literally not long joined the Navy, about 4 years, and I was lucky enough to be part of the Remembrance Service at the Albert Hall. And I could not believe it to be part of that, to be up close with Catherine Jenkins singing a big song sort of meters from us, and then to actually march down the steps live on TV. It was an experience I never thought I would achieve, and that's something you can all have the opportunity of doing if you choose a career in the Navy. Right, the technical equipment. Use equipment that doesn't exist anywhere else. Operate the latest sonar, radar, and weaponry. Deploy with our new generation of warships and aircraft. There are some unbelievable bits of equipment in the Royal Navy, and you will be amazed at how technical they are and how well they work. It's unbelievable kit we use. So did you know there are a broad range of apprenticeship schemes available? So every rating role is a level 2 or above apprenticeship, which you can start straight after school. So for example, if you was to join the Navy straight from school at age 16, you would start your role, your chosen role, and whichever it may be, there is a civilian aligned apprenticeship that runs with that, and you will gain at least a level 2 qualification from that apprenticeship. It's different to when I joined, that wasn't available then, but now everything is aligned with apprenticeships, because the Royal Navy understand that personnel deserve and want those qualifications that they can then take into Civilian Street at a time they choose to do so. So it's a really good package that is offered now, and everything is aligned to Civilian Street. So life in the Royal Navy. Another video for you.
Being in the Navy, you get to see the world, you meet new people every other day, you're not stuck in the same office, same job, 9 to 5, it's going to be different every single day, and you're going to work with people every day and getting paid to do it at the same time.
You get the feel that the person teaching you it really has been there, got a feel for what they're doing, and when you're being taught that, it transfers across in the classroom and it seems to sink in a bit easier, knowing the source you're getting it from is someone who has experienced everything to do with the course.
It's different in the way that it helps you see the reality of life, gets you ready to be out in the fleet.
And you learn first-hand assisting people in fixing the most up-to-date equipment the Navy has to offer. If you listen to more senior people, you can't really go wrong.
In terms of learning on the job, I am really excited to do it because we're basically moving from a classroom setting to dealing with real people and real life situations. It will basically test your skills and your knowledge and your competence to see that if you're actually good for the job.
I forget like we are on an apprenticeship, to be honest. To me it just feels like a job. We're just training, and when we're done, that's it, we carry on with our job.
There's so many things that you can work on and so many different areas that you can go into, and even if that's not your specialist area, you know, it's all one big team. I mean, I'm predominantly an electronics engineer and work on radars and things like that, but I've been involved in engine changes and pulling out massive bits of metal, you know, and it's just great fun. It's something that you'll never experience anywhere else. That's what makes the Navy so good, really, because you never really know what you're going to be coming up against. You never know who's going to be there, where they're from, what their story is. Just all mix it and help each other out and come out the other side.
So there we go, just explaining there about the apprenticeships. So what we're going to watch now is a video about life as an officer, because obviously some of you are going to choose to take the officer route if you do well educationally, and some will take the rating route. So let's have a look at officer first.
The officer route's always been the one that I've been interested in, because leadership's one of those things that all the jobs I've done in the past have always kind of fallen into a position where you're in charge, you're kind of making the decisions. And I kind of like that aspect. I want to have responsibility.
One of the big things about being a naval officer is the amount of people you lead. I've got a lot of friends in Civilian Street at engineering, and they only maybe have a department of maybe 2 or 3 people. My department at the moment is about around 50, so it's actually having great communication skills with other people.
I think it's a really exciting job to be able to develop other people.
You could have a job working out in Bahrain, UKMCC, or you could just go from ship to ship. There's obviously jobs where you can be based on Portsmouth or Devonport or Faslane at the bases. You could work at Whale Island in naval headquarters. There's loads of options, but ultimately if you want to go down the command route, you need to be on ships as much as possible. You need to understand exactly how they work.
A lot of the benefits you get from having all of these different life experiences is that you learn how to work with people. And as an officer, that is your most important skill.
Leading people is enjoyable, it is interesting. It's probably one of the most challenging parts of my job, especially when you're dealing with people that work for you that have got a tremendous amount of experience.
It's just more challenging and you get more responsibility, I think.
At sea, normally for a forward officer, we'll do a 6 on 6 off rotation, so you'll spend 6 hours on watch between meal times, and then you'll go to bed, or you'll be on your off watch for 6 hours, then you'll go to sleep, get up again 6 hours later, and go on watch again after having your meal.
Everyone always asks me about being at sea, how do you keep fit on a submarine? Even on the T-class submarines, the smallest ones we still have an exercise bike, 2 rowing machines, a couple of weight areas. There's not very much plyometric, you're not going to jump very high, but there's definitely places to do a lot of exercise.
Okay, excellent. So in regards to the officers then, just to elaborate on that, the eligibility is something you would need to look at for the officer role. And starting off with your school GCSEs, you'd need a minimum of 5 GCSEs at grade 4 and above, but you'd also need English language and maths at grade 6 and above. That would then tick the box for the GCSEs. And then moving on to your A-levels, you'll need a minimum of 96 UCAS points from your A-levels, where an A, for example, is 44 points. So looking at that, you could work out sort of what you need to achieve 96 UCAS points. Some of the more sort of specific roles, engineering and medical, you will also need a degree to be able to enter in that sort of role, but you can look at scholarships that are available and bursaries are available. There are some for engineering and some for medical, where they'll actually employ you initially and then send you to university to do and study your degree, and then when you come back, you walk straight into a job in the Royal Navy. So that's a good option to look at if that's where your sort of path is. Okay, then moving on to starting your career. So as a school leaver, so you can enter the Royal Navy as a rating, earning a wage from day one, with no real qualifications for the majority of the rating roles initially. There are a few that you will need some GCSEs for. You'll gain skills and vocational qualifications while you earn, as mentioned in the apprenticeships that I've discussed. And now we're looking at bursaries and scholarships allow you to continue your education and have a guaranteed job at the end. So that's also an option for those of you going on to further education. So if you go on to college, depending on your grades, you could enter the Royal Navy as an officer. Again, that's dependent on your UCAS points. You can study while you work, getting fully funded qualifications up to master's degree level. There are bursaries available for A-levels if you was to go on to the engineering route. So that's something to have a really good look at whilst you're still at school. Keep all of your options open. And there are advanced apprenticeship schemes that allow you to start your career at a higher rank. What this means is, it's, let's say, an advanced accelerated apprentice for air engineering. You show the sort of initial qualifications for that role, and you show a little bit of leadership potential as well. We'd look at you and put you in for an AA role. You would then start a 2-year intensive course, and at the end of it, you would start your sort of full career in the Royal Navy as a leading hand, starting on a salary of 31,000, which will move up quite quickly. For that, you will need 3 GCSEs at grade 4 and above, which must include maths and a STEM subject, and you'd also need 48 UCAS points from STEM A-levels or a BTEC in an engineering type BTEC course. As long as you've got those with a little bit of leadership, we could look at that as an option, but it is competitive. And as a university graduate, you can enter the Royal Navy as an officer leading a team in anything from engineering to logistics. If you want to study a master's, you could have it fully funded and qualify while you work. That was what I was explaining in regards to the bursaries and scholarships, etc. If you're interested in a medical career, you can get paid to complete qualifications and train in an NHS hospital. A lot of the training is conducted up at QA Hospital in Portsmouth. You'll find a lot of the Quorns up there learning and working up there sort of on a daily basis. So how to apply? So initially, all the applications are done on our website, www.royalnavy.co.uk. First of all, you need to look at what roles you're interested in. That's really important. As I've briefed previous, there's over 100 roles, and you could join as a rating as an officer. You need to find what role and what level you're looking at applying at. And then you need to find out if you're eligible, making sure that all of the boxes are ticked for the eligibility. You can either register your interest or make the application. The recruit test has recently changed to what we call a Defence Aptitude Assessment, or the DAA. It only came out a few months ago, and it tests sort of 7 areas of life, if you like. You've got mechanical comprehension, electrical comprehension, work rate, numbers, literacy, all the different areas that you've done at school. And it just gives the Royal Navy a good sort of assessment of where you're at in an overall picture. And if you pass the DAA test for your chosen role, you then move forward onto the selection interview with someone like myself. And then whilst that's ongoing, you'd also be conducting your medical and your eye tests, and you'd also need to complete a pre-joining fitness test. So the selection interview then. So on successful completion of your Defence Aptitude Assessment, you'll be invited to the video selection interview, which we do now on our Shine platform. And it's broken down into 5 specific areas. So first, we're going to look at your home and family background. And then we're going to look at your education. Moving on to your current previous employment, including full part-time voluntary work. And then we'll look at your spare time activities, including sport and fitness. And then finally, your motivation as to why you want to join the Royal Navy and why this is your job choice. And what do you know about us, importantly too. So looking at that, you can see that we're trying to get a big picture of you as a person, what you're all about, what makes you tick, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and why it is you want to be in the Royal Navy, because that's really important. It's hugely important, and I can't stress it enough, to make sure you're choosing the correct role. Choosing the correct role is imperative, and then you'll go on to have a successful, really enjoyable career. So I'm sure you're all aware, but the fitness standards are high within the Royal Navy and especially in the Royal Marines. So you need to be in good shape before you start. Every recruit has to complete the pre-joining fitness test. And there are times to dictate, depending on what gender you are and what age you are, will dictate what time you have to achieve. And there is also an initial training involves a swimming test. So that swimming test involves jumping off a 3-meter board, being able to swim 2 50-meter lengths in a set of overalls, treading water for 2 minutes in a set of overalls, and then climbing out of a pool unaided with those wet overalls on. So they're the things you need to be sort of looking at if you are looking at making an application to join. So there's lots of things to assist you on our website. So if you do visit the Royal Navy website, you can get downloadable fitness plans, advice and guidance. It's all there. It's a one-stop shop. It's got everything available to you to assist you in preparation for joining the Royal Navy. And you'd also have a careers advisor like myself to sort of aid you in that process. So further assessments. So some of these have also changed recently, so I'll explain what they are and tell you all about it. So for an officer, you'll also have to conduct what we call the Admiralty Interview Board. That used to be a 1.5-day assessment. It's now changed to a 1-hour video interview, which will determine and assess your suitability for the role of officer in the Royal Navy. And that is pass or fail, and you'll get 2 attempts at that AIB if you was to fail the first attempt. For rating, they used to attempt the pre-Royal Navy course, but that has now recently changed to the CPC, the Candidate Preparation Course. And that is the same, it's just changed its name. It's a 4-day assessment to make sure you're mentally and physically ready for basic training and to give you a taste of Royal Navy life. So basically, if you was my candidate, let's say, I've got you an entry date to join HMS Raleigh, now I need to put you on this course to make sure you're ready. And those instructors will ensure you are. On that 4-day course, you will go through your running, you'll go through your swimming, and you'll go through some basic drill, and you'll go through looking after your kit, and just generally giving you all the basics and checking you're ready for entry to HMS Raleigh for your training. So for officers, so commando officers, their course is now changed from potential officers course to officer selection course. And it's very similar to a CPC. They go down to Lympstone for 4 days and they conduct a mentally and physically demanding course and a 1.5-day assessment that tests their mental and physical suitability for the role of officer. So they're put through their paces quite vigorously. And the Admiralty Interview Board for that role is now gone, and it's just all focused on the officer selection course. And the Royal Marine Commando, similar to the Royal Navy, their course has changed to Royal Marine Candidate Preparation Course instead of PRMC, but it remains the same as a 4-day assessment to make sure you're mentally and physically ready for basic training and to give you a taste of life in the Royal Marines. And those 4 days, they will really put you through your paces. You will conduct your running, you will conduct your swimming, we will do press-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, burpees. And if they don't think you're ready, it is pass or fail, because if you're not passing the CPC, you're clearly not ready for the next stage of basic training for a Royal Marine. So are you ready to fulfill your potential? Let's look at Louise's story and see what she's done.
A women's place. I decided it was up to me where that was. And it was in the Navy. Yep, I know it. Said that I wanted the night. Get it, told me you're coming, then I'm ready. Ship looking rocky, but I'm steady. Yep, I know it. Said that I wanted the night. Get it, told me you're coming, then I'm ready. Ship looking rocky, but I'm steady. So hear me out, let it register. Going all out for the minister. And the seminar preaching the word on your team to a foreigner. Chasing that dream team, my team looking merrier. Hungry for long, so the grind's looking scarier. Couldn't be me, and that makes me feel happier. Yep, I know it. Told me you're coming, then I'm ready. Ship looking rocky, but I'm steady.
Okay, before I go to thank you any questions, I just want to reiterate on the officer role. So as well as that, your GCSEs and your UCAS points, we are looking in great detail for leadership experience. It's a big risk for us to put you forward for officer if you've got very little leadership experience. So if you are thinking about the officer route, start thinking now about what you can do to improve your leadership experience, whether that be try and become captain of your football team or your rugby team or whatever sport it is you play, any team event that you can supervise or lead. Things like Duke of Edinburgh, bronze, silver and gold are really good, and that's sort of real big tick in the box for us because we know what's involved and what you need to do to achieve those. So that's important, as well as your education. Leadership experience as well is key to success to becoming an officer in the Navy. Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you for listening. I hope that's given you a good sort of all-round idea about what we have to offer in the Royal Navy. And if you've got any questions, I'm ready to try and answer them for you.
Brilliant, thank you. That was really, really great. I'm sure everyone has really enjoyed that and taken a lot from that. I'll just go through the questions now that have been submitted. If everyone has got any more questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A section, and we will go through. There's a couple in the chat as well, so I'll read those in a moment as well.
Sure.
The first one was, do you need GCSEs to be in the Navy? You have already answered that throughout your presentation, but I don't know if it's just worth recapping.
Yeah, sure. So to enter as a rating, most of the rating roles, you don't need GCSEs, you don't need any qualifications, and we will train you from the start. But there are a couple of roles like Royal Navy Police, for instance, where you would need grade 4 and above for English language and maths. But if you go in the officer route, obviously you need the GCSEs that I stated in the presentation.
Perfect, brilliant, thank you. So a really good question was, what's the most challenging thing during phase 1 training? And I guess this differs depending on who you speak to, and it's very different.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, probably from most people's experiences, it'll probably be the impact of if you haven't lived away from mum and dad, if you like, and you go straight down to HMS Raleigh, it's a big shock to the system. To all of a sudden you're an adult looking after yourself, and you've got a team of people that are relying on you to do your bit to make sure, because you don't pass as yourself, you pass HMS Raleigh as the team that you become when you get there. So that's probably the biggest shock, I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. Do I need any qualifications to become a submariner?
Again, it depends what role you're going into. So if you want to apply as a rating, then no. But if you wanted to go in as an accelerated apprentice, you would need the 3 GCSEs from STEM subjects and the 48 UCAS points from A-levels or a BTEC. Or if you go an officer, it applies to the same principle. There's just extra tests for submariners, swimming tests that you have to complete to earn your dolphins, as we say in the Navy.
Brilliant, thank you. Another one was, do officers have to go to Raleigh first before going to Dartmouth?
No, they don't. No. So the officers go straight to Dartmouth and conduct their 15 weeks initial training, and then they'll move on to their professional training. So the thing with officer is you're going to go in one end as the person you are, and you're going to come out the other end, and you're going to join a warship, and you're going to be in charge of a lot of senior people in the Royal Navy. So it's a very quick transition. So there's a lot of training, a lot of intense training, but it doesn't stop when you leave training. It goes straight onto that big ship, and you need to have that leadership about you to deal with that.
Brilliant, perfect, thank you. Another one, I'm not quite sure what it meant, but this is, what does the response team come under?
Response team? Do you mean the response force? We have a response force in the Royal Navy, which is basically on a warship. You'll have duty personnel. A response force will, if there's an intruder within the ship, or there was an intruder on the jetty, or someone armed on the jetty, a response force will be piped, and they will muster in a certain area. They will don weapons, and they will search the ship in a pre-planned way to ensure everybody's safety and try and catch and deter the deterrent and take them off the ship.
Brilliant, thank you. Another one that says, how do I or can I get work experience, as I need to do this for school? Is there a way of doing this with the Royal Navy?
It's a difficult one, that, because basically the work experience will be conducted by personnel that are serving in different locations. For example, when I was at school, I actually did work experience on our RNS Cold Rose, and I wrote a handwritten letter to the captain of the unit and asked permission to come and do work experience, and they wrote back and offered me a week at their unit. So I mean, that's what I would suggest, is writing directly to the captain of a unit and asking permission, and I'm sure they would gratefully receive you.
Yeah, brilliant. We have something quite similar at Rally. We have sort of every year, once a year kind of thing. They send an email or a letter straight to the base, and either the commander or the first lieutenant usually respond and say, yes, we can, or no, we can't. Just depends on what's brilliant. When you say leadership experience, does being a student leader or a senior student leader count?
It will count because it shows you've got some leadership. A lot of it we're going to look at, why was you picked for that position? Was it something you just got given, or did you have to do something to be selected for that role, or did somebody see something in you that put you in that leadership position? It'll be, we'll sort of dig a bit deeper if you like, but as much leadership experience as you can, if you're going for the officer role especially, it's really important because we need to see that you've already got those sort of building blocks to move forward, because if you haven't, it's very difficult for us to take that risk.
Brilliant, thank you. What is the Royal Naval Military Police like?
Royal Navy Military Police. Well, it's a very quite a small branch. They're very hard workers. They do their job really well. They get to see lots of the world. There's lots of assignments around the world for military police in different establishments, places like Singapore and stuff like that. So lots of sort of places you can travel with that role. But again, they're very sort of keep themselves to themselves, and they do their job the same as civilian police do, and ensure we're all sort of kept in line and discipline is maintained.
Brilliant, thank you. What does the pre-joining fitness test entail?
Okay, so the pre-joining fitness test is a treadmill test at a Nuffield Health Centre. So if you was my candidate, for instance, if I sent you the instructions, you would call the Nuffield Health Centre, your local one, obviously, book a test, turn up, you'll take some paperwork with you. They'll do a quick medical check to make sure you're fit to take the test. And then you'll go on a treadmill with 0 elevation, and you will run the test and achieve the time that you need to achieve, depending on your gender and your age.
Brilliant, thank you. Are nursing officers placed on ship, or are they placed at bases?
Okay, so there's 2 variants, if you like. So if you joined as a principal medical officer, they're what we call the doctors that deploy with a ship. So when a ship deploys, it's always got to have a PMO or a doctor on board, and they will deploy with the ship, say 5 months, and when the ship comes back, they'll go to their original job in a shore establishment. So that's the principal medical officer route, or you can look at the Quorns route. Now they generally work at QA Hospital and on shore establishments. The only time they'll really deploy on a ship is if there was a war situation and we needed a hospital ship. Generally, RFA Argus will go out to the area, and all of the Quorns, or most of the Quorns, will be deployed on that unit, and they will look after any casualties of war as and when it happens.
Thank you.
I hope I'm answering these questions sufficiently for everyone.
I think you're definitely answering them as what they need. And as you say, they can go to the Royal Navy website, can't they? And
indeed, yeah, there's lots of information on it.
Part of the joining requirements, there are BMI limits. Are there any exceptions to this?
Okay, so to give you an idea, the minimum is 18 and the highest is 28/30, and it's very it's case by case, if you like. If you're very borderline, it's down to the doctors. Nobody else makes that decision. The doctors will decide when you conduct your face-to-face medical. But if you're very close, what they'll do, they'll make you temporarily medically unsuitable for, let's say, 2 months, and they'll tell you to go and either, if you need to reduce it, go and work on that. Or sometimes at the moment, I've got a candidate that's below it. So he has to gain some weight to be able to come inside the minimum BMI that's required. So he's got 3 months now to do that, and then they'll reset him and hopefully get him into the Royal Navy.
Perfect, thank you. What is the regulations for things such as piercings and tattoos?
Okay, tattoos. That's a very good question. And basically, if you're taking a passport photo, if there's anything visible on your face, that's going to be a bar to entry. If there's anything that's visible underneath your ears in a passport photo, again, that would be a bar to entry. But you can have tattoos that are behind your ears, if you like. For an example, some people have stars that go up the back of their neck towards their ear. They're okay because they're not visible on the passport photo, or the way you're looking front on. And also your hands, don't have any tattoo on your hands. It'd be very difficult to give you entry to the Royal Navy with any tattoos showing, if you like. Was there piercings as well?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, again, facial piercings. I mean, let's go a bit extreme with the big large earrings. I don't know what they're called, but they sort of stretch your ear out. I've had a couple like that have applied, and basically they can join the Royal Navy, but they've got to remove them and they've got to allow a certain time for them to heal, so they're then able to join the Royal Navy. Until that point, then we're not allowed to sort of proceed with them.
Brilliant, thank you. Now that we have to stay at school until we're 18, can I join the Royal Navy at 16?
You certainly can. So you can make your application from 15 years and 9 months. Again, but it has to be the rating role at that age, because if you're joining as an officer, you're going to need UCAS points, and that will take you to 18 anyway, if you've done your A-levels. If you're joining as accelerated apprentice, the same, you would have done A-levels or a BTEC. So as a rating, you can join from 16, but you can apply from 15 years and 9 months.
Brilliant, thank you. Can you go in the Royal Navy Police as an officer?
No, you can't. No, it starts off as, you'll start as a leading hand and you'll work your way through. And there's only a few officers in the Royal Navy Police branch, and they're personnel that have gone through the ranks and got commissioned into that role.
Brilliant, thank you. What A-level subjects would you recommend for people wanting to join the medical route?
Definitely maths, definitely a science, and looking at the medical route, you definitely go on the website to have a look in more detail, but you'll need probably about 120 UCAS points rather than 96, because they do vary depending on the best specializations. But maths and science, definitely. And then you could look at something a bit more sort of aligned to the medical world, if you like.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question was, are women and men paid the same in the Royal Navy?
Yes, they are exactly the same. It's all paid on an increment-based level and a rank-based level. So whatever rank you are, you'll be paid at whatever that rate is, and then depending on what increment level you're on. So let's say you start the Navy as an AB, and you've been in for 6 years, so you'll be on AB's salary at level 6. And then when you go to leading hand, you'll go up to the leading hand salary, and you'll start at level 1, and then every year that will go up and increase. So every year you'll get a pay rise of some kind.
Brilliant, thank you. Can you join if you have slight asthma?
Again, very grey area. Asthma, obviously it's going to be an issue if it's quite bad. I say to every candidate, apply, and we'll get you to the medical stage, and on a case-by-case basis, the medical team will decide if you're suitable for the Royal Navy or not. That's the best advice I can give, because I'm not a medical expert, unfortunately.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any specific qualifications required for the aviation route?
Depending on what aviation route you're talking about. If there's, for instance, if you wanted to come in as an engineering officer, you would need your GCSEs, your UCAS points, and a degree in air engineering or equivalent. If you're coming as a pilot, you would need your GCSEs and your UCAS points. Or if you're coming in, let's say, as air crew, you would need a couple of GCSEs, grades 4 and above. But you all in the aviation world have to conduct the flying aptitude test, which is just make sure you've got what it takes to do that role.
Brilliant, thank you. What do I need to do on the subs to get my dolphins?
on the subs to get your dolphins. So basically you'd have to do your basic training like everybody else. You then go and do your phase 2 training, which is similar to what everyone else is doing, and learn your professional qualifications and your professional trade. You then have to do a number of courses that involve sort of evacuation and escape from a submarine. It's not much more difficult than the swimming test, but it's very specific. And if you look on our website, it will show you all the information you need. And then you need to go to sea on a submarine and complete your task books. And during that stage, at some point, you will then earn your dolphins at able rate and then move forward.
Brilliant, thank you. When joining as an officer, do you need a certain degree or can you pick anything?
No, there are specific degrees to whichever role that you're applying for. So if you're applying for an engineering role, you will need an engineering degree to match the role that you're applying for. If you're going for medical, you'd need a medical degree. But things like warfare officer and logistics officer, you do not need a degree for. You don't need a degree for pilot either. It's just the GCSEs and the UCAS points.
Brilliant, thank you. Will the Royal Navy sponsor you to go to university if you wanted to be an air crewman?
Not for an air crewman, no, because you don't need that qualification to join as an air crewman. But you could, once you're in service, then use your education credits, learning credits to gain further qualifications as you go through your career. And the longer you do, the more sort of benefits you get in regards to that.
Brilliant, thank you. Can I apply for medical assistant submariner at 16 or 17? Because they are both on the Royal Navy website.
Yeah, you can apply at age 16.
Brilliant, thank you. What is the minimum and maximum time you have to sign on for, and is there any advantages to signing on for the maximum?
Okay, so everybody will, as a rating, you will sign a 12-year contract on day 1 at basic training. So once you've signed that, you've then got to complete a minimum of 28 days. So let's say you start the first few days, you don't like it and you want to go home, you still have to complete the initial 28 days and then you'll be released if that's what your choice was. After the 28 days, you've then got until 6 months from your start date to decide if you want to continue with the Navy as a career. If in that period you choose you want to leave, you can then request that via the commanding officer, and normally within 10 to 14 days they'll make a decision. Generally they're going to say yes because you're clearly unhappy, and you'll be released from the Navy at the 6-month point. Once you get to 6 months, however, you'll then come under the return of service because you would have done a certain amount of training and the Royal Navy has invested in you. So your return of service is basically 4 years. So once you get to the 3-year point, you can submit your notice to leave, which would then take you up to 4 years because it's 12 months notice you have to give.
Thank you. Do they take it slow with people who may have learning disabilities such as dyslexia?
100%. You will not have any issues at all with joining the Royal Navy if you've got any learning difficulties like that. They cover every aspect and it will all be accounted for when you take any tests, etc. The same as I'm sure you have in schools and colleges. It's no different in the Navy. So you'll have no disadvantages whatsoever.
Brilliant. That's a good one. Does everyone in the Navy have to do drill with rifles or swords?
Basic training, yes, 100%. We all need to know how to do drill, and it's good teamwork, team building, and it creates good discipline. If you can stand still for 30 minutes plus, that creates good discipline in you and good sort of the ability to take orders also. Once you finish basic training, there will be times where you'll have to do drill, but generally at that stage, they're going to be looking for people that want to do it rather than people that aren't so keen. So if you're not keen on it, hopefully there'll be enough that volunteer, but there will be times where you will have to do it, and it's just part of the job, unfortunately. But some of the parades you do are unbelievable. If you get involved in the Royal Albert Hall, for instance, or if you get involved at the Cenotaph of London, it's an absolute honour to be part of it, for one, and two, it's something you'll never forget. I stood still for 3.5 hours at the cenotaph, and I couldn't feel a thing. But I've never forgotten that day. It was such a moment, such a proud moment for me and my family to know I was there. So, you know, that could be you, you know, in a few years' time, perhaps.
Brilliant, thank you. How long do you go away for on ship, and how long do you have on shore leave?
Okay, so worst case scenario, let's say 7 months deployment is about the longest you're going to do, depending on if you go into a theatre of war. Obviously, it's a bit more sort of, they can't give you an end date. If you like, you're there for as long as you need to be. But that's very sort of few and far between those occasions. The rest of the time, I've always sort of worked on 6 months away, 6 months at home when you're working on a warship, because the program will try and ensure that the ship's company have enough harmony time with their families. If you spend too much time away, it's going to cause a lot of friction between families, and you're going to start falling out of love with the role. So they do really look after you the best they can, whilst also making sure that all of the missions are done correctly, whatever we are asked to do.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, the last couple then, just because also we're nearing 8 o'clock.
Okay.
What's the longest, oh no, we've just covered that one, sorry. Can you join the Navy at any age over 16, or is there an upper age limit?
Okay, so you're probably looking at most of the rating roles. Let's say you can join at 16 and the upper age limit is about 39. Where the ages sort of are affected most, a Royal Marine officer, for instance, he can join between the age of 18 and 26. So it's quite a limited period. And it's the same for pilots as well. Their ages are reduced. And Royal Marine Commandos as well, 32, because obviously the level of fitness required for a Royal Marine Commando is such that, you know, at a certain age, you're not going to be able to maintain that level.
Brilliant, thank you. Here's a really good question. What steps can I do for the pre-joining fitness test?
Okay, first one is go straight to our website and download a fitness program. But what I would say, try and go for a couple of 3-mile runs a week. Don't push yourself, just go nice and steady. Just get your body used to running if you're not someone that runs much at the moment, and then start attempting the 2.4 kilometer run. Don't push yourself too hard initially. Just see what sort of time you can get. Have a look on the website and see what time you need to achieve for your gender and for your age, and then go out and see how far off you are. But what we always try and say is do a little bit longer than 2.4 kilometers every time you go, and then attempt that, because it will just build your stamina and build your ability to run at a faster pace for a shorter distance.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any height requirements for joining the Royal Navy?
There used to be, but there are very few height requirements these days. Again, case by case. If you're 6'7" and you're looking at the submariner role, it's not going to be a bar from entry, but you might want to think about how uncomfortable that could be walking around a big submarine with very low doors, because that could get tricky for you. Ships are not so bad. There are a lot of tall people on ships, and there are a lot of short people on ships. And for instance, I had a colleague who was a female. She was relatively short, but she had a special thing made so she could actually stand and be in position and fire the gun that she was trained to fire. She was brilliant at her job. She was always, you know, one of the best we had, but she just had to have that sort of little bit of help to be able to be in the right position. But they will cater for all of us.
Brilliant, thank you. And then we'll go with the last and final question then. Would you be allowed to join the Royal Navy if you're on ADHD medication?
Again, because I'm not a medical expert, I cannot say yes or no to that. What I suggest, as I said before, make an application and we'll get you to the medical stage, and then the doctors will have a discussion with you, and that decision will be made by the medical experts.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your session this evening. I'm sure everyone will join me in thanking you for this evening's presentation.